Recording.
We are recording this class, Robbie McFarlane. Oh, type in VRO music.
Oh.
Oh. Okay.
No. Is it full screen? Okay. Here we go. So, making acapella videos. The first thing we want to think about when we are making a video, who is going to be singing? So, is this a pre-existing group or choir? Are you putting together a new group? Part of the magic of this time is that uh, you can collaborate with anyone, and everyone's just around and can collaborate, and that's kind of the magical part of this Zoom world that we live in now. And like accent, you have the best people at your fingertips. So that's a really cool aspect of this. Um, and then once you kind of decide what the group is, who's singing, then what songs you're going to do. Do you have a specific goal in mind? Are you trying to raise money for something? Are you trying to get your group name out there? Are you trying to show your school that your choir can still do stuff even though you can't rehearse? Is there a specific theme with the music? Are you trying to raise awareness for a certain cause? Are you trying to just make a really fun, great video? What are you trying to do with it? And then is there a specific style that you want to be singing in? Pretty straightforward. Anything to add?
No.
Once you figure out what song and who's going to be singing, launching into the arrangement, things to decide. Are you going to arrange in house yourself or another group member? Are you going to hire a professional? Um,
You're going to arrange in a house,
in a house,
in-house,
in a boat.
in a boat.
I will not arrange in a moat.
Yeah, I
Green
will
eggs
not
and
arrange.
ham.
Exactly.
What are the visuals? Do you
Ooh.
have something in mind? Shams and Vijay are gonna get to that much more in depth later, but when you start the arrangement, you want to kind of have some kind of idea what it's going to look like, what the plan is, and you want to arrange to suit whatever that visual ends up being. What's the intended platform? Is this on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram Story,
TikTok.
TikTok?
Maybe not for long.
Yeah, TikTok might get banned.
It's very sad for me.
Very sad.
And the rest of my Gen Z
Yeah.
can.
So thinking about where it's going to go, and so if you're doing a vertical video, you'll have to create another edit if you want to do it really the right way. You have to have the horizontal, and the vertical version. How long is it going to be? So if it's on TikTok, there's a limit. Instagram, there are limits for the stories and for the main feed videos, and then there's also IGTV. So all these things to think about. And then once you know kind of how long you want it to be, figuring out what the form is. And usually in a regular pop song, these days they keep pretty short, but a lot of songs tend to have, extra choruses at the end that just kind of go on, and an intro that may not be right for acapella. So a big part of acapella arranging, this is not all about arranging, but just a quick thing as it relates to making videos, is that you want to really keep people's attention. Um,
You also want to make sure that like this is on the intended platform thing. It's like you want to make sure that the song length and the form is really conducive to the specific platform that you're on. So something that you make for Twitter is not going to parlay well into the same type of form that you would have for Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. So you really need to be mindful of that kind of stuff. Even if it's the same song, you probably would consider doing like shortened versions depending on what kind of platform you'd be on. And that really stems from the kind of attention span that people have on these certain platforms.
Exactly. And also something I left off of here is who your audience is. So that's a really important thing to think about. Is it, the families and parents of the school that you go to? Is it the larger a cappella community? Is it the larger music fan world? So, you kind of want to tailor what you're doing to who's going to be listening to it.
Mhm.
Um, and also another thing to consider is ear candy versus simplicity. Ear candy being just like very more busy elements, more complicated elements of an arrangement, tricks that make us go, ooh, wow, ooh, oh, cool. And not every song and not every performance is going to warrant a ton of that. Sometimes you just want to have something simple, let a lead vocal shine on its own, or let a beautiful choral sound shine on its own. So just considering what you want to do in that department. How many singers are going to be singing? How many parts are going to be singing? So figuring out, is this going to be a literal, I see four people singing, I hear four voices? Is it going to be more studio esque, wherein you can layer other parts and, it's not a huge deal either way. So you're trying to just consider all those things and what your intention is.
And also some other studio considerations like do you want a fade out or a fade in? There are, or even reverbs you can consider as part of the arrangement as well. So many other little productional things that you could take advantage of because it's not for live.
Totally. Yeah. And then going back, this kind of goes with form and song length, but what's your intro and what's your ending? And you want the intro to be really effective.
Or else you'll lose people.
Yeah, you really want to grab people, and you don't want to just be like, oh, the original song does this, so I'm going to do this. You want to make your choice intentional. And then I wanted to play this. This is a really fun little TikTok arrangement by Ryan Narciso.
But up this hit, that ice cold Michelle fight for that white.
This one for them hood girls, them good girls, string masterpiece.
Styling, wildin', living it up in the city. But got junk songs in the morning, I'm so pretty. Too hot, hot damn. Call the police and the fireman. I'm too hot, hot damn, too hot.
Nigga, do you want a retirement?
Too hot, hot damn. Oh, say my name, you know who I am. Ba-da-da-da. My band's about that money. But girls hit hallelujah. Boys hit hallelujah. Everybody hit hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Saturday night we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch.
Love it.
So cute.
So that's a great example of a TikTok video. It's vertical. It's about 1 minute, I think. And it has a lot of ear candy, has a lot of tricks, has a lot of people switching parts. Ryan, he's singing bass 1 minute, 1 minute he's singing like a baritone part. So it's just like a very virtuosic, very impressive, lots of riffs. It's like every possible fun thing he could do, he threw it in there.
And you're kind of like watching it the whole time and you're like not really breathing because you want to like take in every single thing that's going on. And so this is definitely like one side of the spectrum when you were talking about ear candy versus simplicity.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's like the far end of the ear candy side, just as an example. And then now I want to turn it over to Tahila.
A beautiful picture of Tahila.
For demo creation. I'm going to make you the co-host.
Well, hello, everybody. Good morning to you.
Your mic up a little.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Can you hear me now? Ooh.
Perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to be talking about some demos. So I'm going to share my screen here. Please adopt me gladly.
You really want to take that on?
So I'm just going to be kind of going through the process of creating demos and basically getting from what's written on the sheet music to performing it. So as a demo creator, the main thing you want to do, it's a little, the process is a little bit different depending on if you arranged it and you're the one creating the demo and you're the only person who's singing it for like a TikTok thing or Instagram thing or whatever it might be, or if you're arranging it and another group is going to be singing it, or if the arrangement was given to you and another group is going to be singing it, like a virtual choir, virtual group sort of thing. So the process for creating demos in each of these different scenarios is a little bit different, but the thing that ties them all together is just being specific and being intentional in the demos that you create. So I'm taking this little 4-bar snippet from an Academy arrangement we're doing. Don't you worry about a thing. You might know it. So the question is, how do we get from these 4 bars? I'm going to play a little bit. These 4 bars of just the MIDI. Oh, wait. I can share my sound. Hang on. I'm dumb. 1 second.
You're
How
not.
do I unshare? Oh, stop share. Share screen. Share computer sound. Cool. I always forget to hit that. So how do we get from what's in the sheet music on a MIDI?
No, we still don't hear it.
You don't hear it?
Is your output on Logic
Oh.
set to Zoom?
Oh, that might do it. Hang on.
The MIDI sounds great though. We can imagine.
Sweet.
Like, beep, boop, 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 boop.
Ah, there it is. You hear it? Cool. So how do we get from this to this?
Everybody needs a change. Ooh,
So
time to
there are
check out the
different
noodle.
approaches in how do you want to make this demo. You just looking at the sheet music, you might want to think, okay, there aren't really any dynamics written. Aren't really any dynamics written in. Aren't really any inflections written in, other than these little scoopy scoops here at the very end. So starting out, it might just be a nice little straight toned.
Do you have the sheet music you can show?
Everybody needs a change. Ooh.
What? I'm sorry.
Have the sheet music you can show?
Yes, here it is. But
Everybody needs a change. Ooh,
so the
time
notes
to
are right,
check out
and
the
because there aren't really
noodle.
dynamics written in, it's technically the right thing, but you also have to take into consideration who's going to be the soloist, what is the context of the rest of the arrangement, knowing that this is the 3rd verse of the song. If people know the song and know the cover of the song, knowing that that's where we are in the song, you're going to know it's going to be a little bit bigger, it's going to be more stylistic, knowing that a group is going to be singing it. So it could be taken in a ballad-y sense. If you wanted to add a little bit more vibrato, make it a little bit sweeter.
Everybody needs a change. Ooh,
So that's technically also
time to
not the
check out the
wrong
new
thing to do, depending on what the solo is, depending on what the original arranger intended it to be. But now knowing that that's not what it's supposed to be, I was asked, okay, make it belty, dig in a little bit. What do you want to do in that case? So here we go.
Everybody needs a change. Ooh,
But that's really similar
time
to the very
check out
first
the
thing that
new.
we did, in that, there aren't really any stylistic things that are written in. There aren't really any dynamics that are in there. So even just the smallest adding of a little bit of stylistic things in the beginning and a little bit of scoops that aren't written into the arrangement already make it sound like an actual group is going to be performing it.
Everybody needs a change. Ooh,
And also all this to
time
say
to
that
check out the
making sure
new.
that all 4 parts are being sung the exact same way, because even one part that's off already, it is not fun. So making sure that no one blends better with you than you. So just being intentional with how you sing it, being intentional with tune and rhythm and cutoffs and all the articulations that are written in, and always keeping in mind there's going to be a group that's singing it and learning from you. So how would you want them to perform it? So that's originally because Ben is the one who arranged this, yay. So that's originally what I sent to Ben. But he was like, you know what? You should dig in. Think muses, think gospel, woot, woot, woot. And so taking that into consideration, and that this was a virtual choir that people are learning note for note, inflection for inflection, I went back and recorded this baby.
Everybody change. Ooh,
And
time to
because
check
it's
out the
only one of me singing
new.
it, and it's not like a entire group, there's nothing that's doubled, there's nothing that's tripled. You have to make sure that you are extra intentional with dynamics and all the micro dynamics, macro dynamics, and the entire arc of the arrangement, arc of the song. So again, there's nothing that's written in to this portion of the song. So it's my job as a demo creator to interpret it.
Demo queen.
Everybody needs a change. Ooh,
And that being said
time
as well,
to check out the
personally, I
new.
like to do all the background vocal parts first before I do the solo, because the backgrounds will therefore give me something that I can do the solo on top of. If I were to, going back a little bit, have this as my background part, and I'm trying to do this huge solo over it, that's not going to make any sense. That's just going to make the demo sound really, really dumb. So basically, always have the soloist in mind, have the group that you're performing for in mind, if it's a college group or if it's like a virtual choir sort of thing, as this is. And yeah, like let's say this is also the thing that we're doing. You don't want to go,
everybody needs a change.
whoever's going to be singing the solo, you want to match what's happening in the
Time to
back.
check
So
out
keeping
the
that in mind,
new.
we're back to, this is what ended up in the final version, knowing that the final was going to be, everybody needs a change.
Everybody needs a change.
Like a big thing that's going to be happening there.
Time to
So
check out the
keeping all that in mind when
new.
you're doing it. And I can't do beatboxing, or I'm not a real bass. And so Ben ended up adding bass and VP to get this.
Everybody needs a change.
So the
Time
big
to
thing
check
when
out
making
the
demos,
new.
especially when you're making it, arrangement is given to you and you're sending it off to someone else, is being extremely specific in cutoffs and articulations, especially in dynamics. You want to do 120% of the dynamics that are written in. Make sure that your softs are soft, that the crescendos are really crescendoing, and that your louds are loud. And also, on that note, we're probably going to get to this in the recording section, but when you are actually recording, the most important part of each track is making it sound like it's one collective track, that all the things that are in there aren't clipped and aren't distorting or any of that stuff. And when you're actually recording, what makes it easier, having the Logic session all lined up, you have the click, you have the MIDI, you have everything labeled. None of this makes sense. It's just my mind working in mysterious ways. But having everything labeled, having everything organized, so that way you can be able to refer quickly back to things when it comes to the more technical side of things. And the process is a little bit differently when if you are arranging and recording for yourself, because you can kind of manipulate what the cutoffs are, manipulate what the inflections are, and no one's really learning from you. But even in that, you want to be specific in how you go about executing the vocal part, if all that makes sense. But yeah, that's the majority of what I have to say.
We're wondering what mic you're using.
What mic am I using? Good question. It is the Slate Digital VML1, as recommended by Ben Bram. It's really, really good. I highly recommend. It's a little on the pricier side, but it's really, really great. I just got it a couple months ago as a graduation gift, and I do not regret it at all. But also with things like this, if you have GarageBand, you can even make an iPhone recording work, or whatever mic you have, a USB mic work. Just what's good about this and having this interface, I also have this Focusrite interface as well, is you're able to manipulate the gain on there, how much sound is coming into the thing, into the interface, into the DAW, as well as coming out. Also, I use Logic. I don't know if you could tell from this, but I do use Logic. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, just adding to that, as far as making demos, without being able to rehearse with a group, a good demo is the #1 way to make a successful recording, because it gives that guide that everyone can glue to. like you were saying, all the inflections, all the musical choices that you made allowed the kids that sang along to that demo to really match that. And then once we took the demo out, it's able to stand on its own as a great musical performance that has all these elements in it without having to be like crescendo here, loud here, da da da. You just pick up on these things. So going above and beyond and making a really fantastic demo will save a ton of work in the long run. And also knowing whether you have the capability to do that yourself or if you should hire someone. Tehila is available.
I am, please.
So I think that's just a really great thing to keep in mind and something that really elevates a lot of these digital quarantine performances where you're sending stuff around. Awesome. Thanks, Tehila.
Of course.
Tehila, the demo queen.
Okay, we're gonna move on to recording now. So once Tehila has made your demo and sent it out to everyone, the next thing you want to think about is recording. And I'm going to go through a bunch of different ways to record, but let's say you want to record with a mic and an interface. What are you going to need? What are you going to tell your group members to get if they don't already have it? You need a microphone. Some mics that I love, Tehila's mic is great. It's around the $800 range. Sometimes it's on sale for like $500. That's called the Slate MV1. Shure SM7B is this mic that I'm using right here. It's particularly good because it's a dynamic mic and it doesn't pick up a lot of the room noise. It's directional. So you sing into it, it picks up your voice, and it doesn't pick up a lot of the things around it. So it's great for beatboxing particularly, and for recording in maybe a louder space. Rode NT1A and Audio-Technica. Audio-Technica has a bunch of mics, different price range. This is a brand that is generally good. Those mics are condensers, so they pick up everything that's happening in the room. If there's an air conditioner over there, you're going to hear it. It's a lot more detailed. So weighing what space you're in and what mic is going to be better for you. And the Shure and the Rode are around the $300-ish range, and Audio-Technica ranges the gamut. You're going to need an interface. The interface that Tehila had that most people have as an entry-level interface, the Focusrite Scarlett series, is awesome. And the cheapest is like $100, and then they can go up from there. The Apollo makes a lot of them as well. Higher end, really great quality. Those are great. You're going to need an XLR cable. You're going to need headphones. You're going to need a mic stand. You're going to need a pop filter. You're going to need a computer, a reflection filter, which is this guy over here. You can't see my mouse, but it's the thing, the shield.
The shield.
Yeah.
You're going to need a computer.
And then I like this Focusrite bundle. It's really easy if you just want to, if someone needs all the gear, they're between $220 and $350, and the $350 one has a mic stand and reflection filter and all that stuff. The cheaper ones only kind of have the mic and the interface and the headphones and the XLR cable. You're going to be working in a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation software like Logic, GarageBand, Audacity, Ableton, Pro Tools First, which is you can get as a free trial, which is great. Reaper, which is free. Then there's that one that Amanda was telling us about, Soundtrap.
Yeah.
Soundtrap, it's a free web-based one, I believe.
Then there's Fruity Loops.
Fruity Loops, all kinds of DAWs. Pick your poison.
DAWs for days. Get it?
Okay, I'm going to take you into Pro Tools now. Okay, so this is Pro Tools. Let me know if you can hear this.
Did a full 180.
Can you guys hear that? Yes. Good. Okay. So this is an acapop track that was recorded mostly on phones. Oh wait, where's the phone section? Did I skip that? Is that no? That's next. That's next.
Later.
Okay. We'll get to that. So this was recorded mostly on phones, and with phones, you aren't able to line things up. So when you're recording on a DAW, if they've recorded correctly, they'll have, their demo track or a guide track of some kind. They've recorded along to it, and then they'll send it back to you, and you can line it up with the session. With a phone, it's just this loose recording that you have to place into your session and make sense of it. Sometimes maybe it's sent in chunks. So you can have people send things in chunks. You can have people sing it all the way through and send it. These were recorded all the way through, so it's just like one take through the whole 1 minute little ditty, and then you kind of have to line it up. So as you can see, all these lines they're jagged, they're not in the same place. I had to just line it up, approximate, and drag it in. And we have recordings of various qualities. I'll play it back for you, and you can hear some of the phone recordings are done in spaces that are not so great, a little boomier. So I'll just play it.
Did a full 180, crazy, thinking about the way I was. Did the heartbreak change me? Maybe. Look at where I ended up. I'm all good already, so darn it's scary. I'm not where you left me at all. So if you don't wanna see me dancing with somebody, if you wanna believe that.
Anyway, you get the idea. So based on what that audio sounds like, there are a couple soloists in there that the spaces they recorded in weren't ideal. So it sounds very live. So what you're not going to want to do is pair that audio with a really, really high quality, like super high octane video, right? You want to match that audio, which is kind of like a homegrown, we did it at home kind of feel, and make sure the video matches that.
Janky meet janky. That's it.
You want to have it match. So you don't want to have, and
Like-
the same way, you also don't want to have like a really high quality track, everyone recorded on mics, and then the videos don't look so great. So I'm not saying it needs to look bad, but it should match. It should feel the same way. It should feel homegrown. Anything I was gonna, so that's one way to do it. And then you can also have people record in their DAW, in which case they've hopefully, crossfaded things. And there's there's so much about recording that we could get into. But I trust that y'all can find the resources to, how to record in a DAW and all that stuff. But it basically involves doing all this. Yeah,
I think the key is just really like making sure that you try and set up some consistency across like the different recording mediums. So like, for example, if everyone in your group is going to be recording in their phone, trying to get everyone to record in an uncompressed format so that you can, like, if everyone has an iPhone, they can record in Apple's lossless uncompressed format. If you're mixing, some people are recording with like a nice mic into a DAW and some phone stuff, just make sure your mixing engineer is like aware of that and can kind of create something that equalizes everything. So just be aware of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And now let's move on to phone recording.
Phone recordings. Can't live with them. Can't live without them. Okay.
Okay, so recording on an iPhone, many people don't have recording gear, aren't going to get it. That's fine. iPhones actually work pretty well if you know how to use it. The first thing you want to do when you're recording on an iPhone is the phone automatically compresses audio. So you want to go into settings, voice memos, audio quality, and set it to lossless, which will give us a larger file size, better quality, uncompressed audio. You want to use the onboard mic. You don't want to use any AirPods, any headphone mic, any kind of thing that you plug into your mic to use, unless it's like a high quality one that like is like going to be better. The mic on board the iPhone is actually pretty good. You want to use the voice memo app to record, unless there's another better app that I don't know about. Also, when transferring files, you don't want to ever text anything, any media, photos, videos, audio. Well, it'll always compress it. It will always degrade the quality. So you want to use AirDrop. You want to use image capture, which is a utility on Apple computers. You plug your phone into the computer, you go to image capture, and then you can extract whatever you need from the phone. Or Google Drive, uploading something to Google Drive directly from your phone. And then the angle is really important when you're recording into your phone. As you can see here, I've demonstrated the proper angle. You do not want to sing directly into it like this because you're going to get a lot of air noise. You're going to, it's no good, no good. So you're going to want to hold it a little bit to the side and a little bit in front of you so that you're getting the most sound into the mic without a direct air hit. So that has been the best angle to work with. And also tilt it a little bit towards your mouth like that.
So is this correct?
No, it's not correct.
Is this correct?
No.
Is this correct?
No, still no. Nope.
Is this correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Except you sing straight ahead and the mic off to the side. You don't look at the phone. Yeah.
Don't look at the phone.
There you go.
This is what I'm looking like.
Yeah. All right. The space. This is the trickiest part of recording for people that aren't used to recording. Ideally, you want to make a little booth for yourself if you can. If you have no other, the booth is the ideal scenario. You don't have to. Packing blankets are great. Basically, you want to minimize reflections. You want to make it so that when you clap, that's the next thing. When you clap in the room that you're in, you're not getting this weird tinny sound that you can get sometimes. If you try it in your room right now, try it in your room, see what it sounds like. Are you hearing any reflections back to you? Do they sound weird and affected? Sometimes in a room, if it's built a certain way, it'll give you this like tinny reflection. Or sometimes you'll get a nice little reverb to it. Sometimes it'll be completely dry. So a little bit of reverb is okay, but you don't want a lot of reverb and you don't want a weird tinny sound. So you want to kind of minimize that. You want to put up blankets. You want to make the environment more suitable for recording. A lot of people record in closets, but sometimes it can not work so well, especially if a closet isn't covered on all sides. You're going to get a very odd sound in there. So if you are in a closet, make sure that when you clap, you get a nice sound and that it's not too muffled. You're going to want to turn off any AC, machinery, anything that makes a sound. I have the AC on right now in here. But whenever you record, you want to make sure that you eliminate any kind of background white noise that you may not even notice when you're recording, and then you listen back and you're like, oh, what is that low hum? Because the mic picks up everything. Here's an example of a really good phone recording.
Feet again, lift your head, hold it high. You wanna run it back, but you can't. Turn the time.
You can hear a little bit of the room, but for the most part, it's like pretty tight. You're hearing the vocal directly. You're not hearing a lot of excess external anything. It's just like you're getting a lot of signal, which is great. Here's like a not as good phone recording.
Put him on blast.
He sounds great. It's Preston. But the phone recording, you can hear a lot of the room. You can hear where it was recorded, and you really want to just hear the vocal signal. So he also recorded that on a mic, which sounds like this. So there you can go. You can compare that and see, just how much better mic recordings can be. So if at all possible, I recommend
The sweet sound of
getting
redemption.
mics. Okay, when you're recording, a few decisions you have to make about the recording process. What interface are you going to be recording on? Are you going to be in mics or a mic and interface? depending on what you want it to sound like in the end, do you want it to be single tracked where every person just has one track? Or do you want it to be doubled and tripled to create a fuller, richer sound? And that leaves you a lot more options when you're mixing, because when you have a single vocal, you can only put it in one place in the stereo field. So you have to say, okay, Allison's going to be here, Brian's going to be here, and you have to just make those decisions. But if you have doubling and tripling, you can put them left, right, and center. There's a lot more options. But if you want to make it kind of very homegrown looking, then sometimes single tracks will be the best option to match with the visual.
Good old Allison. Brian.
Uh-oh. I lost my...
Click on the...
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay. And then do you want to capture the audio and the visual together or separately? If you're doing a virtual choir like Eric Whitaker's big virtual choirs, those are done capturing them together. So you're singing while you're filming, you're getting the same audio. It's all the same. It's one source. And that really works well for that kind of thing where you have just hundreds of people stacked up or 50 people stacked up. And then you also have the other option of pre-recording and then lip syncing. And that is the method that we prefer for what we do, which is more pop stuff that has to be a little tighter. And you're able to just control each environment best. You don't have to stress about, do I look right?
Yeah.
Am I, and you only get one shot at it. So by recording in advance, you get to really produce yourself. You get to do a bunch of takes. You get to combine takes. And then...
Also, you don't have to scrap the whole thing if one little element goes wrong.
Exactly. You don't have to get a perfect take. So those are things you want to think about.
Why don't we had a question. Why don't we want to have everything in the center of a mix?
Oh, well, I don't know how to explain it best, but if everything's in the center, you don't realize, but every song you hear has elements in all stereo fields from left 100 to right 100, everything in the middle. So you have more space to fill it up with things to make it feel like you're enveloped in the music. If you get everything coming at you at once, it's all going to be on top of each other and it's all going to conflict with each other, and you're not going to be enveloped in the music at all. It's going to be very pointed and not pleasant to listen to.
And this is important for creating a video specifically, because when you align a visual medium with any type of audio, like obviously it's important to make sure that the mix is making use of the full stereo spectrum. However, when you're aligning something with a visual, you want to make sure that your visual also then kind of looks good with the way that things sound spatially. And so VJ and I will go over that later, but that's kind of, I think, where that question came from. Thank you, India, for the question.
Okay, it likes to freeze up on me a little bit. It'll come back in a second. Come on. Okay. Okay, here we go. Coaching. So when you leave a bunch of singers, especially young singers, to their own devices, no pun intended.
Ew.
The quality will be mixed most likely. So you want to have some kind of control over what's happening. You can't just say, go record it and expect it to be amazing. So one thing you can do is part checks. You can have them record it just on an iPhone, whatever. It doesn't have to be a great recording, but something that allows you to hear the performance back and make notes on it. You can do individual video coaching, meeting with them before they record, having them sing lines for you, just a little coaching on FaceTime or something like that. Is really useful. Mm-hmm. You can also do remote coaching while they're recording. This is a little more difficult, but there are ways to do it. You can be on FaceTime. You can be, there's actually ways to Zoom in and work with someone while they're recording and coach every line with them. But yeah, that's definitely possible. And then once they record it for you, you can redo stuff. You probably will have to redo stuff. We have to do that all the time. It's just name of the game. If something isn't quite up to par, if something was recorded in a weird space, if it was clipping, lots of reasons why we may have to redo something, but in this way of making content, usually, unless the person has a lot of experience, will be something necessary. Once we have all the recording done, you want to move into the editing and mixing stage. For those of you who don't know, I just want to kind of give an overview. What is editing? Editing is correcting the pitch and the timing of a recording. And the editing style will change based on what you're trying to do. Sometimes virtual choirs don't have any editing. Sometimes they don't. You just kind of stack it on, and because there are so many people singing in a forgiving space, and layered so many times, and just the style of music sometimes doesn't need a ton of editing. If you're doing tight pop vocals with a smaller group, you're probably going to need a lot more editing. You're going to want the timing to match up perfectly. You're going to want the chords to ring perfectly. So there's a lot of variation there in how it's edited. Mixing. Once you have the tracks edited, you want to get them mixed, which means reverb, delay, compression, EQ, effects, all the things that make music sound like music. And then there's also mixing choices. Do you want it to sound like they're just in the room singing, or do you want it to be like a track? So
A track.
Yeah,
bro. I want my music to sound like a track.
Yeah, so that's just something you have to work out with your mixer and what you decide and the direction you want to go, and relating that to what the visuals look like. We've had to do a bunch of different experiments with Citizen Queen and Acapop and Pentatonics about like what the right level of produced sound is for this type of content. And it's kind of run the gamut. We've done everything. And then mastering. Mastering is when you take a mix that has been printed and figured out all the parts in their place, and then you basically apply another layer of EQ compression that's specifically looking at the big picture aspect of it, how it's going to hit, what things you want to accentuate, what things you want to de-accentuate. And in this kind of situation where you're making these sometimes live sounding mixes, mastering is kind of optional. If you're doing a real recording with mics and you get great quality recordings, I would definitely recommend mastering. But if it's more of a phone recording, not always necessary. Okay. Hiring professionals. This is something I think you should highly consider while making this content if you want it to be of good and great quality, unless you are a professional yourself. So yeah, I would definitely consider, what's your budget on this? How much are you willing to spend? And how good do you want it to be? In this situation, a producer, I would say, would be someone who can oversee this whole process. Shams did this recently for a couple things, but just basically making sure that everything we talked about is all in line with each other.
So it can kind of it can be a lot of things, right? Like, so it's like a project manager, basically. It's somebody who maybe is involved with casting the project, is involved with making sure that cast knows what they need to do. Maybe it's arranging it and sending it out and doing part tapes and demos, and then kind of seeing them through the process of learning that music, and then seeing them through the process of then recording the audio, making sure you're interfacing with, your sound engineers to produce the audio, then filming, then working with the video team to get the video done. So that kind of, the producer role in this case is kind of does all those things.
It's basically like everything we've talked about today and are going to talk about today, a producer will do it all for you.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to worry about every single little detail, because this process is incredibly long and detail oriented. Making quarantine content, it's like there's so much, you have to work twice as hard, and sometimes the quality isn't as good as you want it to be in the end, just based on
it's like never as good
based on just the reality of where we are. So if you don't want to think about it, you can hire someone to literally just like do it all for you. I really have a lag on this slideshow situation. It's very annoying.
Other types of professionals.
I'm gonna actually. Okay, yeah, there we go. Editors, someone to edit it for you. Mix engineers, mastering engineers. And we
plug
for Arranging and Chill. We have a bi-monthly workshop, masterclass, podcast, Arranging and Chill. We started a Facebook group that has become a nice little hub of people.
Lots
So
of talented people in there.
If you have any questions about any of this, if you are looking for an editor, mixing engineer, producer, join that group, message there. People will recommend a bunch of people for you. And yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh.
we're doing James first, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to now hand it off to James to talk about group dynamics. Oh, I have to unmute you. Okay, one sec.
Oh, and then VJ is VRO music. Oh no, now he's VJ Rosales.
Okay.
He changed it like
James.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Illy.
Hey, can you hear me?
Nice and clear, James.
So great. It's all this studio technique advice. Got myself a mic here. I briefly wanted to talk about how making online content, particularly creating it over the internet, comes with its own unique set of challenges, a lot of which ultimately come down to communication and also expectation within your group. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about managing the flow of communication within the group and managing the flow of expectation as well. Because with good communication, it means you can be running multiple projects at the same time, keeping momentum going and everyone being on the same page. But without a good structure of communication, inspiration can quickly drop. Projects that could have been done in 1 week take a month or take months or years. And things need to be redone because someone forgot this piece of information. How many of you can relate to that? I know I certainly can. So it's really all about balancing productivity and setting high goals while respecting everyone's individual needs as well. And that's definitely an ongoing process and not something you just solve in 1 day, unless you're really, really lucky. My thoughts for this definitely are drawn from my own reflections with my own group Accent, which is a group that was created on the internet. It was like 6 YouTubers, and we kind of started, that was our primary form of communication, was just interacting through YouTube. And just coincidentally, we're based in 5 different countries. So half the group are Europe based and are asleep when the other half is awake because of the time difference. And so, waking up to all these missed messages, 300 missed messages, we talk a lot, and information just going everywhere. And, one of the guys has 4 kids. So we're also in totally different, age ranges as well. And yet, pretty much all the content we do is done digitally. And we've been this way for 8 years with the same members. So make or break, I think, often comes down to good communication. I think we have 5 primary lanes of organization that I'd love to share with you. I'm sure some of which will be familiar. We have a Facebook group page, which is clean, and each post is a different project. We have a separate Facebook messages, one for like our banter and then one for the really important stuff. And if we're working on a new album, then that will be a new group message as well. We have bi-weekly hangouts in Google Hangout with our faces, which is so much more useful than you might think, just especially in this climate, to actually interact on that level and have that personal interaction, which really keeps momentum going. I love, this is my favorite one actually, we have a Dropbox link, which is really, really carefully managed. So it just ended up, the answer to every question is, it's in the Dropbox. So it's like, okay, but where are my parts? In the Dropbox. Where can I find the score? It's in the Dropbox. What's my travel itinerary? In the Dropbox. What's for dinner? Probably not in the Dropbox, but theoretically, it's in the Dropbox. And we also have good communication flow between individuals as well. So I think these 5 things are just super, super grounding and super important. It might sound a little insane, but we've also tried WhatsApp and Slack and text and all these other things that didn't necessarily gel with us, but might gel with you guys. And there isn't a right or wrong. These are just suggestions, which will hopefully keep momentum going. So firstly, just establishing what your group needs, which undoubtedly will be unique. Some musicians have so much enthusiasm for the creative process that the idea of deadlines can only serve to demotivate, but other people really thrive off of deadlines. So one size really doesn't fit all, but it's worth thinking about and having these conversations because they will in turn help you and your group create beautiful music. But yeah, just being curious and thinking about every part of the process and talking about it and involving everyone from the song selection part to the arrangement to the recording to other projects. Although of course sometimes in Accent we have moments where one of us might get inspired and bring a whole arrangement and it's like, here it is, and we can channel some of that inspiration. But other times someone might suggest a song and then it's really validating for the arranger then to like, yeah, let's do that song, and then someone else to weigh in and making it collaborative, which will keep that just a positive culture within the group, and crucially keeping momentum and what feels right. And then as Tahila said, and just the use of learning tracks cannot be undersold, and MIDI and score and everything that replaces rehearsals, so that it's very clear what you're supposed to be doing. And so over time we have sort of dialed in our expectation of the quality of our recording submissions as well as our level of involvement, and that takes time and isn't easy. And secondly, I'd like to talk a little bit about roles and division of labor, as it's called. Who does what? And that's a really tricky one, I do have one strong thought on it though. And I think it's a myth that everyone has to have a role or job for two reasons. Firstly, because I think things might end up feeling forced. So I think, people hold on to this idea that, without getting too heavy, but like in relationships of any kind between humans, things need to be equal. Otherwise it's unfair, or someone's not pulling their weight and it's uninspiring. I feel demotivated. I'm doing too much. But I'm starting to realize that this can't be true inherently, because everyone is different and everyone has different strengths and weaknesses in different disciplines and places. I feel lucky in Accent that we have a member that feels incredibly comfortable with administration of all things, So big plug to Evan. Whilst in my old college group, I sort of, that was really assigned without much real thought. And I think resentments grew from that, which were very hard to manage. And Simon and I in the group do the bulk of the arrangements. But not everyone has to do something defined in the group, by which I mean like a defined role. It wouldn't make sense to divide the arrangements up with the two of us between the group if the two of us are happy doing them. And there might not be a role for everyone, all bases might be covered, particularly if you have a bass in the group. Bad joke. But just, yeah, it has to be manageable and everyone has to feel comfortable. And the other half of that is, think of it like this. If you're thinking to yourself that this person is less involved and they don't have a role, so your instant response is, well, why not get them a role? It's not fair. Stuff like that. But just something to consider is, I think there's an underlying emotional reality, which I think is more important to identify, which is you see someone not doing something and it's upsetting you because you're perceiving it as disinterest or a lack of interest or a lack of engagement. Do they not want to be involved in the group? Do they not want to do this because they don't care? I think that's something really interesting to reflect on. And so really, there's a different conversation to be had, and bypass the arbitrary, like, oh, they're not doing enough. It's more like, hey, checking in with everyone. How's everyone feeling? I noticed that you seem a bit quiet. You haven't necessarily volunteered yourself to a role, because the reality could be something completely different. It could be that they want to do something, but they don't know the best thing to do and they feel embarrassed to do something. Or it could be a fragile reason or a vulnerable reason, or even an intimidation reason. I'm scared to do arrangements because you guys are doing this amount and I'm not sure if my arrangements will fit up to this quality bar, whatever that is. And so I think that's part of being a good communicator as well, actually, is identifying those things and trying to get to the real heart of problems. And then motivation can flow naturally. And so with good open space to communicate, I think everyone can be on the same page, and that's so crucial. And sometimes people's roles need to change over time as well, because humans, we're not static, and we change and we grow over time. And that's totally cool. Some people have social anxieties and find it hard to talk in groups. I've seen that as well. Like, they're just sort of, even in a group of 4 people, which might seem small, but it's actually like not feeling comfortable. So having that individual lane also helps, the one that I mentioned from before. And also just being aware, you know, in accent of certain cultural differences as well, since we're from 5 different countries, how people express and receive love, which I think is just really important, so that everyone's on the same page, because the guys are now truly, after 8 years, my brothers, you know, and without these sometimes uncomfortable conversations, which actually bring you closer, I think we would have probably split up. You know, I have a real appreciation for groups that stay the same members, like Take Six for the 30 years pretty much, give or take a few, and with us it's been 8 years together. So yeah, it's just so some final thoughts just to sort of summarize all this interpersonal dynamic stuff is creating space for others to talk about your aspirations and problems, uncomfortable conversations that can bring the group closer, empowering each other to feel what they need to feel and learn how they should be supported. Sorry, you know, I really think that's a big thing, and how Accent has survived. And learning to validate each other instead of challenging or solving everything instantly. And yeah, being organized as well, and just having these conversations. As I said, it's a real balancing act, productivity and setting the high goals versus really being there for everyone's needs. So hopefully some of the things that I've mentioned above can help you guys navigate that, to allow for some beautiful, beautiful music to be made that you're proud of. I think that's everything I want to say on that. I hope that's been helpful.
Awesome, James. Thank you. That's great. Should we move on to
Yes.
video?
So this is the class called Making an Acapella Video. So now VJ and I are going to talk about making an acapella video. Yay! Everything that has been said before, super important for sure. Thanks to everyone for all of your amazing insights. So basically, VJ and I are going to talk about the visuals. So,
oh wait, I'm not showing my screen. Oops, forgot. I was like, where is everyone?
So awesome. So basically, VJ, are you unmuted as well?
Sorry,
I think you
failing.
are.
No, I don't. Is he?
And he's muted. Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the visual aspects. So there are a bunch of things to discuss when we are talking about creating an a cappella video, and we're going to take you through a bunch of the specifics. And I just want to give a caveat. Like, this is the way that we make videos. For a sec. I want to just make sure that it's very clear that we make videos this way, and videos can be made in many, many different ways. But just based on our experience, this is kind of the stuff that we wanted to impart.
Yes.
So when we start, here, I can control this. We're going to be talking about, how does this work? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just like, do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you just may not know when to do it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the video concept. And so essentially the first thing you want to figure out is like, what is the video about? I mean, Ben touched on this earlier when it came to the song choice, so I'm not going to really stick around here for too long. But essentially, what are you trying to accomplish with this video? Is it going to be for a charity? Is it going to be to increase your brand awareness? Is it going to be just for fun? Is it going to be because you're bored? I don't know. There are lots and lots of reasons why you would want to make an a cappella video, and all of them are valid. So you just kind of have to make sure that you know what your central purpose is, because a lot of your decision making when it comes to the visual aspect is going to be, you're going to want to come back to the central purpose or this message.
Absolutely. The next thing is vibe and feeling. So how will this video make you feel? What is the overall feeling that you're trying to project in this video? You know, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you disgusted or surprised? You know, what feeling are you trying to get across to your audience? And make sure that if you are in a group and you do an a cappella group type thing, that it is across the board. Everyone knows what type of feeling they're trying to portray in the video, so that we're all on the same page.
Totally. And kind of, you know, going back to James's point about communicating that with each other, very, very, very important. The next thing that we have, oh my God. You wanted to figure out, like, from a technical standpoint, like, are you planning on doing a location style video where you're in a certain area and you're recording yourself and filming yourself, or are you doing like the more typical a cappella box video? Is that
restart it? It's just not cooperating.
Do you want to do a typical box video? And there's really nothing wrong with the box video.
Nothing. We love a box video.
I do love a good box video.
We love a good, yeah. Those are great.
We can give you some tips and tricks on how to make your box videos even better.
Yes.
Because it might be good to just save it, like show it from here, this screen, rather than the presentation screen. And so you can also incorporate elements of both. Sorry guys, we're just like having some technical issues, which is why I'm so choppy. But we should be fine from now on. Can everyone see the screen? Let me just get a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So if you are doing a box video or a location video, you can also, I mean, you can choose one or the other, but you can also do elements of both. So a lot of our Acapella Academy videos that you're going to be seeing this upcoming weekend on Saturday might incorporate one or the other or both of these types of styles. Box video, just to like get everybody on the same page. It's like when you see like a Brady Bunch style video, it's like a split screen. That's what we're referring to when we say box video. Yeah.
Cool. Tone and colors. So what color scheme are you using? You know, are you doing pastels? Are you trying earthy tones, bright neons, or like black and white? Colors can basically complement the vibe and feeling and can kind of just complement the overall intention of your video. So colors it's a big thing. That's super important.
Yeah, colors or lack of colors. If you're doing a monochromatic,
sure.
Or if you're doing a period piece, you'll want to make sure that things kind of align. Yeah, cool. And finally, you want to figure out if you're going to do special effects in your video. So that can range from any type of animation, or you can do motion graphics, or if you want to keep things really simple, you can do that as well. But also figure out how much you want to do those special effects, because it can be really it is definitely a consideration, especially when it comes to things like your budget or just the amount of time and bandwidth that you have to produce this video. So all these are really important, and we're going to be hitting a bunch of these and some more technical aspects as well as we go through our presentation. So this first thing that I want to talk about is a storyboard or a shot list. And I know this isn't necessarily something that comes to mind right away when you're like, I want to make an a cappella video, because maybe you are not doing a concept that requires a heavy narrative. Maybe there is no narrative journey for like a person in your video. However, it can be helpful no matter how simple or complex the concept is. And so things that a storyboard or a shot list can include are timestamps of where we are in the audio, locations that you want to film in, the shot orientation, which means is it going to be shot horizontally or vertically. We can also talk about shot framing, as in where people are within the shot. And then also, obviously, action notes. What are people doing while they're performing? Are they just lip syncing? Are they sitting? Are they standing? Are they running in slow motion? Whatever. There's lots and lots of stuff that you can kind of include on a shot list. Frankly, if you're doing a more complex thing, it just kind of keeps you more organized, especially if you're, in a larger group. If you have 9 or more people, just kind of organizing all of them and making sure that there's a list that you can refer to for people making, filming themselves or making content, especially when people are kind of doing it in this current state of affairs where people are all separate. It can be very helpful as an organizational tool.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, I love starting simple, huge tip, just start really simple and it'll probably become complex in the end. But simplicity is really key when it comes to videos, because you just want to get that across,
Here is an example of a very simple shot list. So for the whole song, we're performing to camera, and then at 3:10 in the audio, everyone does body rolls.
Come on, body rolls.
And then when the song ends, everyone smiles.
Yes.
So that's a very simple approach to doing a shot list. Obviously, this is a joke. But yes, storyboards and shot lists save so much time. Here's an example of a much more complex shot list. You don't have to read all of it, but some of the things that are included here are, the types of shots you're getting, who's doing the shot description or the action that's happening. Are we using a filter? This particular shot list is actually from my group this year, Fever Dream. So you guys will definitely see that this is very familiar to you all. We looked at different things like filters, using Instagram filters and TikTok filters, as well as camera specs. Wanted to figure out what type of frames per second we were shooting in, and the resolution, the shot format or orientation, like I was saying, horizontal and vertical, what kind of audio you are listening to while you are filming, which is very important. We'll get to that later. And then as an organizational tool, just to label it with some kind of naming convention in whatever file drive you're using, just to keep everything super organized. So yeah.
I love it.
Let's talk wardrobe. So the next,
oh gosh,
these are two lovely photos of my friend VJ that we've selected. The first and foremost, when it comes to wardrobe for videos, you need to make sure that you are choosing looks that you feel very comfortable performing in. There's nothing worse, right, VJ? I mean,
right? Absolutely.
There's nothing worse than being filmed. For me, there's nothing worse than being filmed, but there's nothing worse than being filmed in wearing something that you're not comfortable in. So you need to be super comfortable in that. So look from, especially if you're choosing from your own wardrobe, like just make sure, you have every possible option at your fingertips for you to feel comfortable, because those are your clothes. If you are hiring a stylist or have somebody else selecting clothing for you, make sure you try it on and you perform before you do the video.
Absolutely. Okay, so obviously when you are choosing clothes for wardrobe, choose flattering colors that complement your skin tone. Obviously this can be kind of a perspective thing. There's no right or wrong answer, but if you take a look at the pictures, those two pictures side by side, you can kind of tell like, okay, which one might be more preferable. In terms of my opinion, I think that the bold blue looks better than the pastel, especially with her skin tone. Yes, POC. And like, especially if you also take a look at the white background that goes, it kind of goes again, or it kind of camouflages with the lighter pastel, and you don't like that. You want the color to really pop. So in this case, pick the blue, because blue's your best friend.
And it also kind of goes with the undertones of this woman's skin, right? She has like these warm undertones, which I think are really beautifully kind of countered by the coolness of the blue. You can kind of see this other example as well, where the red is just kind of washing out her skin tone, whereas the green, since it sits opposite the color wheel, this is a color theory thing, which we shouldn't get super deep into, but can be very important for selecting color palettes for your video, including wardrobe. You can see that the green really just accentuates her. Yeah.
She looks happier too in the green.
She looks a lot happier. Generally, you can refer to something like this. We'll make this presentation available for you guys. But if you have warm undertones in your skin, here are some colors that you can use that will, look great on you. As you can see, the left side, there are some slightly less lower contrast options, and on the right side there are some more high contrast options. And so if you have warm undertones, feel free to look at this list. Feel free to kind of look at this color guide. And I think choosing colors is really important.
Absolutely.
We're going to show you an example of a video that I've recently produced where we felt that the colors just kind of worked really nicely. And it was like a very much produced at home kind of video. But I think it was successful because we chose the colors the right way. We made sure the performances were really great. But moving on, here are some examples for people who have cool undertones to accentuate what's going on, in terms of if you have a cool undertone skin, then these colors will help accentuate your natural pigmentation. So try and select wardrobe that looks like, that fit within these color palettes. VJ, any other thoughts on colors?
I just wanted you to maybe go deeper into like the difference between warm and cool, because I also have that type of question with that too.
Totally. I feel like the best way to look at warm and cool undertones, so it doesn't really have to do with like skin darkness or lightness. It kind of has to do with how I think the best way is to kind of look at a group of people and then kind of compare the skin tones underneath. Some people have like more kind of, warm tones. It's like when they have an undertone of yellow or orange kind of like undertones. It can be very subtle. And then some people who have cool undertones, it's where the undertone of their skin is more kind of like in the blues.
Yeah.
A lot of people do like the vein test. They look at the color of their veins on the underside of their arm, and that kind of gives them like an indication of whether they have cool undertones or warm undertones. And so if you look at your veins and they're kind of green, then then you probably have like olive skin or warm undertones.
That's me.
And if you have if your veins are more blue and pink, then you typically have a cool undertone. And yes, you can also be a neutral undertone, in which case you can basically wear all colors.
Anything you want.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of interesting. Color theory is interesting in general. I know this is a class on making a cappella videos, but aesthetic is very important when it comes to this type of thing. Don't be afraid to play with colors. I know a lot of a cappella groups in the recent like years have been playing around more with different color identities, which I really love. I think in maybe like 5 to 8 years ago, groups were doing a lot of the wearing all black, and now I think lots of fun color palettes are kind of coming back, and I just love that because it kind of gives more visual identity to
Same.
groups and to videos, and it kind of helps you remember it a little bit more too. Like, oh, that was a group that wore like cream and and mustard and
Mustard.
I love mustard.
Yeah.
Pop quiz for you all. Which is the better color?
Which one?
Yes, the answer is actually neither. This is not a they're both bad.
Ew.
V-necks are out, so like don't wear a V-neck.
Don't do it.
That's all.
Okay. So next in the wardrobe, I get the privilege to work on the James Corden show with the Philharmonic all the time, and whenever we're on stage, they're always like, if any of us are wearing stripes or any type of print, they'll be like, you should probably change out of that.
Cut.
Or, ooh, wear a solid color, wear a solid color over that, like put a jacket over that. Just because on TV, and especially for those of you who have been on TV before, they'll tell you not to wear stripes and not to wear pinstripes, all those things, because on TV it literally strobes. And people are like, whoa, that looks weird. And so it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just not technically okay to wear on TV. Right. So, just try to avoid the stripes, avoid the prints. But if you do wear any of that, try to counter it with like a solid color, maybe like a solid jacket over.
Or layering pieces and stuff like that. I mean, don't wear this middle dress because it's also just hideous. It's on the side are cute, like to wear, but maybe not for a video, especially not the shirt on the right side, because
not the plaid. Don't do it.
It's not going to look good. You want to select garments that relate seasonally. So the obvious thing is, like seasonal. Okay, here's a picture of a bunch of kids wearing like fall winter. This is an acapella video where we have styled the kids so that they're all wearing this kind of outdoorsy, wintry fall winter.
They look so good, by the way, Shams.
We're picking up colors from various people's garments and accessories, and we're trying to keep within the same kind of color palette. So the color palette we're using here is like this kind of forest sage green, this kind of khaki color, this more like dark kind of burnt umber color, as well as this icy blue, which is kind of doing our Disney blocking for kind of evoking the colors of Frozen. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. And as you can see, we're really not straying from the color palette at all. But what you're also seeing is that seasonally, all of these items align with each other. And it's super important that for your video, whether you're making a seasonally specific video or not, that things kind of relate to each other and that you could kind of envision everything in the same, as being in the same catalog, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So a catalog of a store or whatever, a fashion line, everything should kind of be able to live in there. People are asking about how to handle a low budget for clothing in a video. I mean, honestly, a lot of these clothes that you see here, I mean, it may look like we broke the bank, but we bought a lot of the stuff at Target, a lot of the stuff at Forever 21. And so, you know, stuff like that, you can really do a lot. If you have a good eye, and if you can, or if you have a friend who has a good eye, ask them to help style your video. Right?
Yeah. I love a good thrift store too, guys. Don't forget about the thrift because it's so good. You can find some good stuff there.
So good. Here's another Acapop video. Like, as you can see, the colors are very much repeated and related wherever we go. We see the two background colors of the two girls on the side relate to some of the garments that people are wearing in other parts of this video. You can see that around Ava's neck, she has that little green accessory that relates to Aubrey's jacket, and then which relates to Nolan's sleeve. He's the middle square with the map. So you just got to be really intentional about stuff like this, and make sure that you're choosing colors for your backgrounds that are also flattering on the skin tone. Emily looks really good on top of that light blue color because she has a cool undertone. Aaliyah looks very good with that orange background. And so, yeah, you're kind of, you're doing that. So these colors are not chosen via green screen. These are actually specific, separate paper, seamless paper. So there are companies that make it seamless. If you just Amazon seamless background paper, like you'll find these in many, many different colors. And so these are papers. You can use lots of things. You can use green screen. Unless you're lighting something really, really perfectly, green screen, excuse me, can look very janky. So I would suggest not doing green screen on a budget unless you can really, really figure out the lighting to make it not look, you know, bad. Yeah. So, Vijay, you want?
All right. Yeah, accessories. These next few pictures are of Citizen Queen. I'm such a stan. Yeah, Katie, Nina, woo, all of that. They're amazing. Cora, yes, Cora. So accessories are a big thing. And what I love about Citizen Queen, Shams, you directly style them, don't you?
No, so actually these videos, so in the beginning, yeah, we did work together to style them for
yes.
videos like Evolution of Girl Groups and No Tears Left to Cry. But no, nowadays they work with a really amazing stylist.
Great.
Mecca Cox. She's amazing.
I love that. Yeah. And some accessories that you guys can all use in your videos are ties, hats, bonnets, belts, suspenders. I love those good suspenders. Gloves.
Using
statement necklaces.
Bolo ties as necklaces.
Oh, yes. That's awesome. Bracelets, watches, sashes, shawls, scarves, lanyards, socks, pins, piercings, rings, stockings. All of those are all really great. And when you look at a group and they're just wearing the basic thing, it's cool, it's great. But like once you really accessorize a group, that brings out so much personality, and it brings out not just the group itself, but individuals within the group. And I think accessories are so important.
Yeah. Okay. Next topic of discussion, and I'm kind of zooming through this because I just want to be able to get as much information to you guys as possible. So forgive us for our velocity, but feel free to ask us follow-up questions later. I do want to leave time at the end for questions. But basically, the next thing we're going to talk about is lighting. Lighting is so important when it comes to video production. If you don't have good lighting, your video will look bad. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That is the blanket statement I'm going to make. Lighting makes the video. It really does. It's lighting and performance. So the standard like 3-point lighting setup is kind of the most basic thing that you can do. I mean, obviously, as the name suggests, we have like 3 different lights. So the first one is a key light. It's the kind of the strongest light, which provides like the most lighting to your subject. You want to make sure that the key light is actually not directly in front of the person. A lot of people are asking about like, well, what if I wear glasses? I wear glasses. I just actually got new glasses. Let me know in the comments. The key light should be placed at like kind of a 45-degree angle, as you can see by this diagram. Can everyone see the diagram? Great. The camera is obviously in front of the subject, or the object, I guess. I'm going to call them subjects. So that's cuter.
Cool.
The key light is going to be the main source of light. And then we're going to have another light on the other side opposite, which is going to basically fill in the shadows. So it's a softer light. It's used to fill in the shadows on the subject's face. It should be positioned out to the opposite of the key. And the intensity of the fill light is usually around like half of what the key light is. So if key light's at 100, fill light's at 50. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. Finally, we have the backlight. It's sometimes called a rim light when you're like looking for it on Amazon. Or you can really use any lights for any of these purposes, but as long as they shine. It creates depth, provides a soft glow in the background, which is nice. If you place it above and behind the subject and like out of the shot, you can get that nice kind of halo effect, which is cool depending on what your video concept is. Obviously, this third light is like super optional. Even the fill light can be optional if you're like really on a budget. We will give you some lighting recommendations as well. But that backlight, I would say, number 3 backlight is pretty optional, and kind of depends on the concept of your video. So what is this good for? This is basically good for everything: box videos, location videos, interviews, virtual marriage proposals.
Yes.
Basically everything. So feel like this standard 3-point lighting setup is just like your friend. You will always look good if you do your lighting this way. It really helps to minimize super harsh shadows. I see so many groups and videos where like the shadows are super harsh either behind them or on their face, and it's casting this really unattractive kind of lighting, because it's not like we're trying to make horror films all the time. But I am seeing a lot of cinematography and lighting setups that lend themselves more to horror films than a cappella videos. So
All right. So Shams, you can actually talk more on the technical side of things, especially for the reflectors, because I don't know too much about that, but I know for Philharmonic videos that we do outside, just a tip on that. Like if you guys are doing videos outside, we wake up like at 4 a.m. and then we'll go to whatever the site is right when the sun rises, and we'll just basically film as much as possible until like 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. because if the sun is right like straight like above you, the lighting doesn't look as good. And then we'll wait to do after shots 3 p.m. on. And it just depends on where you are in the world, but in LA especially, lighting also takes its toll depending on which time or what time of the day it is.
Totally. And I feel like lighting at that high noon time of day where the sun is directly overhead is giving you the most harsh lighting that you can possibly get throughout the day. You're typically trying to get light that where the sun, so because you wake up so early, or you're doing it at the latter portion of the day when the sun is close to setting, you're getting the softest possible light during those times of day because the sun is not overhead. It is actually on the side. And so you're getting a lot of just refracted light as opposed to direct light from the sun hitting you and causing harsh and unsightly shadows. So, obviously if you're shooting outdoors or in a space with very large windows, you can use the sun's natural light to illuminate the scene. Obviously there are drawbacks here. The sun can be really intense, like we just mentioned at certain times. The weather shifting, these are also, I can't tell you the number of videos we've done outdoors where we're like constantly battling the wind, where the sun is in the sky. And so just be careful with planning, and make sure you're doing some adjustments as needed. But you can certainly use natural light sources for your videos, and they're so beautiful. They can be so beautiful. Many video makers who use like natural light like to use a variation on that 3-point lighting that we were talking about to kind of accentuate. And so you can kind of see that 3-point lighting setup kind of reflected, no pun intended, on an outdoor lighting setup. So basically you have the sun, which is everywhere, but you can use this large white reflector, which you can very easily buy on Amazon, to kind of reflect soft light onto the subject, and that way you're canceling out a lot of the shadows that you may have, and then you can use, instead of that number three that we looked, the backlight, you can use a gold reflector for that kind of halo effect if you want as well. So just kind of be aware of these types of things. Tips if you're using a ring light. when I use a ring light, if I'm wearing glasses, I just make sure that the ring light is slightly above my head. I never place it below because I don't want to get uplit. That's a super unflattering lighting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you're intentional about it, you can create some really amazing and dramatic things with that. But again, it's all about being intentional. Using a ring light, I love to kind of just place it kind of like north of center, especially because I wear glasses and you would be able to see it. If you don't wear glasses, you could just do it like right in front of your face. A lot of ring lights, especially the one that we're going to be recommending, has like the phone holder in the middle of the ring light, so you're kind of looking at the lens and you see the little rings in your eyes too, which is a very YouTubey thing to do. But
yeah, I love the ring lights. They're nice.
Yeah, we have
Um,
lighting recommendations for you as well.
Yes. So I use the Softbox Limo Studio lights. It's a super lamp holder SLH3. And I have 3 of those. And we use that also for Philharmonic shoots. And basically, I have 3 lights coming at me. And so, yeah, again, yeah, that lighting diagram helps so much. But the Limo Studio lights are great.
And then for a ring light, you can use this AIXPI LED ring light. It has a tripod on it already and a phone holder that like kind of places the phone in the middle of the light. It ranges from I think this one's $50, so it's kind of like a mid-range solution if you're just making box videos and need a ring light, or if you're making YouTube makeup tutorials or whatever you're doing. And for those of you who have no money but have a window, you can use a window on an overhead.
Yes.
You're going to get nice, even lighting, soft lighting on your face, coming from a window. So you'll see a lot of people setting up like right next to their window and kind of creating that really soft lighting on your face. Another option is to go outside, and if you're outside, film in the shade outside on a sunny day. That's another great option. For when it comes to lighting yourself. So lighting on different budgets. Obviously, you can go really expensive with lighting. You can go super, and you can there's a solution for every budget, hopefully. Cool. So the next thing that we're gonna go over is getting the shot. So we talked about lighting and we talked about vibe and concept and wardrobe and all this stuff. Now it's time to start filming your video. The first thing I would recommend to everyone is doing a test shot. Getting a test shot is so important so that you can get the framing right, you can figure out what's in view. You want to, if you're working with multiple singers, especially in different areas, then having a test shot will allow you to achieve consistency between multiple singers. It also allows you to test different wardrobe options and see what they all look like together. So super, super important. Super important to get a test shot in, because then you can just tell someone before they do the whole video, right? Like, VJ, hey, maybe a little bit more headroom so that our editor can kind of work through that and use that when it comes to cropping the image. We'll talk about filming with your editor in mind, but just make sure that you're always kind of testing things out before and not being afraid to redo things. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I put in all this work, I don't want to redo it. But in reality, if you get a test shot, that is like a really quick way to make sure that you're doing it right so that you don't have to perform the whole thing 15 times and then be told later that it's not correct and it's not good. So definitely get a test shot. Make little mock-ups of your video using those still images, and yeah, you should definitely do your test shot on location if you can, whether that location is your bedroom wall or a seamless background paper or in front of your window or outside in the forest. You should try to do the test shot on location, and more specifically on location and at the same time that you would be filming. And the reason I say that is because you want to make sure that the lighting is consistent, especially if you don't have as much control over the lighting. For example, if your lighting source is the sun. Of course, if you're using, a lighting setup completely, and you have like no real interference from natural light sources or windows or anything like that, then it really doesn't matter what time you do it. But generally speaking, the sun will be a player in your lighting game, so consider her. Cool. VJ.
Is this me or is this you? Well, basically, it's kind of just, is it editor?
Yeah, so basically,
Yeah.
you're filming with the editor in mind is basically what we were talking about. Essentially, we have a raw video here and or a still from a raw video where we had the singers perform um, with a lot more headroom, a lot more, especially room on the sides, so that eventually, when we were in editing, we could achieve things like this. So obviously, this is color graded, and the shot is cropped in. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we had enough room for the editor to play with and work with, so that he or she could be creative in the template building process when it comes to making a video. Also, just blanket statement, I think I said this before, this is for doing like a cappella box style videos in ways that can also be, more or less creative. But this is filming with an editor who is doing a box style video for you and usually working in some kind of software like Premiere or After Effects or Final Cut, or sometimes iMovie, things like that. I'm not a professional film editor, but there are a lot, and we'll have
professional film note giver though.
I am a professional film note.
That's true.
Sidelines. So you want to film with the editor in mind. You want to make sure the shots kind of, and this goes back to your shot list, making sure you're very clear in your shot list so that you can get the right types of shots so that your editor is not like, pulling their hair. Some great tips for that is making sure you're singing into the lens of the camera and not just to the back of your phone. If you sing to the back of your phone, when we get the video, you're not going to be looking at into that person's eyes. You're going to be looking just slightly to the left or the right. So make sure that you're looking into the camera lens. If you have this iPhone, this one that has 3 lenses, this is the one that you look into when you're in like normal shooting mode. It's the top corner one. So just be aware. This one has 3 lenses, which is insane. But don't look at the other 2 unless you're filming on a zoom or a wide angle. Next up, we're always using the back camera. We're not using the selfie camera because the selfie camera is a much lower resolution than the back cameras are. Don't break character. It's really, really important to remember that you need to leave enough room of you in character on both sides of your video clip. So say we're saying everybody's got a thing.
Same.
You don't just want to be like, you're like out of character, then all of a sudden you're like, everybody's got a thing, and then you're done.
Come on.
You need space on either side in case your editor wants to keep you on screen for longer than your solo. So you need to make sure you're really clear about that when you're either making your shot list or doing your stuff. I know a lot of the editors in the room are like, yes, snaps. That is exactly right. Connie.
Yes, Connie.
You. Don't break character, and also give us lead time in character. So if you're like kind of getting ready for your solo, give it like 4 measures of you just bopping along and moving your body so that, you can at least give the editor the option. And really what that comes down to is you should always have more options to cover up mistakes or do cool transitions or to get things to look really good, because it's not all about what you see on screen or what you're focusing on screen, but there can be a lot that can be done with, all the pieces on the side. I know with my group this year, there are a lot of things where we have these kind of fun motion graphics, transitions from like one thing to another. So my kids had to leave a lot of space on the front end or the back end of their video clips so that they could achieve that. So, and it required a lot of redos because some people just didn't leave enough space, and you can't be afraid to really demand excellence from those types of things. So don't break character. Next little piece of advice is sing.
Sing.
Don't just lip sync. Most people will lip sync and have like a really kind of, their idea of lip syncing is just like it's just like moving your lips, but it doesn't look realistic. So make sure you're actually singing. Make sure you're actually breathing, because the breathing is really the stuff that to me looks the most egregious when it's not aligned, right? Like when we're hearing breaths in the audio track, but we're not seeing someone breathe, it's like really weird, or vice versa. So make sure you're singing, and at like, you know, as much power as you would give in the audio if you were singing live, it'll just look a lot better. Um, Also, as you're filming, make sure you watch your clips and feel like you're happy with those. If you're not happy with them, you're not. If you're not happy with them after filming them, you're definitely not going to be happy with them after the editor is done. So, you know, there's really no substitute for a great performance. No matter how good your editor is, no matter how flashy your video is, there is no substitute for just a really well executed performance.
So true.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah, and just to add to that really quickly, for those of you who sing in groups and do videos for groups, make sure that when you are filming, that there's always a point of reference for the entire group. So you're either looking straight at the camera or you're looking right above the camera. Make sure everyone's kind of looking at the same place, or even like just looking at, or just not having a centered place to look at, if that makes sense.
And I think
Yeah.
that all comes back to that shot list that we were looking at earlier. And I said this is like a version of a complex shot list, but in reality, there's so much information, right, that you should know before filming. Otherwise, the more information you know before filming, the better the outcome is, because the more intentional and specific the video will be. And so in order to achieve that, you need to give clear and comprehensive instructions. And if you don't, then you're just leaving people up to their own devices, and they're going to give you what they give you. And so being more communicative, being more kind of comprehensive with the instructions, so important.
Yes.
Quick note on tech specs: if you're filming with an iPhone, which most of you are probably, you want to film at 4K at 30 frames per second. 30 frames per second is kind of it's 29.97 frames per second is like our industry standard of what we're doing for music videos. You can do less, you can do more. Frames per second is literally what that sounds like. It's the number of frames that are present in 1 second of material. To change that setting, you can read these instructions. You go to settings on your iPhone, camera, record video, select 4K at 30 FPS. If you want to, say, use some kind of slow motion feature, please do not shoot in 4K 30 FPS and expect to slow-mo that and make it look good, because it will look horrible. It will look very choppy. Do not do it. Like, big no. I'd rather see total void of blackness and nothing else than a slow motion video that was originally shot in 30 FPS. You want to shoot 60 FPS or 120 FPS or something where there are more frames within a second, so that when you stretch it out, you're not getting a jagged video output, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So definitely more than 30, depending on how slow if you want to get this super cinematic, like Baywatch kind of run sequence, then you'll probably need to shoot at a higher FPS. You can't do that with your iPhone. You'll need to use a legitimate camera for that. Not that the iPhone camera isn't legitimate. It's very, very good.
Super nice.
But yeah, so those are some tech tips for that. Editing.
Good. Just really in a nutshell, because I know we're kind of we want to go a little faster, but with the do-it-yourself apps, the app that I use for all my split screens is Pick Play Post, and it's only available for iPhones, and I'm so sorry if you have an Android, but you can use the Acapella app for that, which is also great too. But the Pick Play Post app is awesome because you can basically film all of your videos on your iPhone, use the front camera, and then you can upload those videos into each little square, and it's super easy. It's really, really fast. And then you can also take the audio that you mixed yourself in Logic and import that into Pick Play Post and match it up and line it up. And it's honestly, for me, it's a lot faster than using something like iMovie or Final Cut Pro or Premiere, but those are great. But if it's you're kind of like, you're kind of new to it, Pick Play Post is just an awesome starting point for you to make those type of videos.
Yeah, and the Acapella app is also very similar. I know that some people, like using that. I will say one thing: the Acapella app, it kind of degrades the video quality, so it's like not super cute if you're making like a huge video for, for a different platform. But I think it works for Instagram. It's okay. But yeah, that's also available for Android.
Yes.
So.
Oh, and if you upgrade on Pick Play Post, you pay like $5 a year or something like that. I don't even know, but you can upload at quality, which is awesome. And you have like 4K quality options too. It's great. Oh yeah.
If you just to answer Isabella's question, on the Acapella app, you can actually do up to, I believe, more than 15 parts if you subscribe to like the pro premium version of it, which I believe is like $3 a month or something like that. So if you're like a heavy user of these types of things, then go for it. iMovie, Final Cut Pro, Premiere, these are the software that we're talking about when we're talking about when you hire an editor, or if you are an editor yourself and are creating like some kind of concept or a box video that has motion graphics or transitions. I would definitely recommend hiring a professional. We have 8 Acapella Academy groups. All of those video editors are amazing. Some of them are students, some of them are professionals that we found from the world, and they're all amazing. So reach out to them to do your videos because they're amazing. Also, another plug for the Arranging and Chill group, super talented people in there. Ben and I are always seeing new people kind of posting their stuff and just seeing so much great kind of newer talent there. So lots of budding video editors there. It's always good to stimulate the economy. So let's do that.
Yes.
And I wanted to look at a few examples of specific editing choices that we can make, which kind of help us. Okay, cool. So which will help us kind of get a better video. So VJ.
Yes. So, flaunt your assets, minimize obvious flaws. So if we take a look at this next picture, yes, this queen is getting it. She's awesome, but her background is like, ooh, you got some wrinkles in that. We need to do something about that in the editing process. We call it in post, right? So with the next screen, what we did was we used the template to our advantage. We just put the 3 other boxes on the left side to kind of get rid of those creases and wrinkles in the entire shot. And then I would still like even consider the wrinkles on her left side too, and maybe put something there as well. And you can work that out, but those are some type of things. What was that?
I think, or crop it in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just those frame right wrinkles. But yeah, I mean, this is a great example of how you can minimize. I mean, obviously it's not a perfect solution. A perfect solution would be to say, hey, can you refilm yourself on this without creases? Can you iron the backdrop? But
right.
that was not the case. So we had to do something in post to fix it. And so what we did was we used a template to our advantage.
Especially when you're the soloist. Leads, get it together.
Exactly. VJ knows what it's like to be the lead.
Stop it.
Next up, we have balancing our templates. So a lot of times in box videos, I see just like a lot of 9 grids. A lot of people just like everyone's just singing in a 9 grid the whole time, but it's really important to balance your templates. I mean, both in terms of just the orientation and the kind of format and layout. So here you see kind of like 2/3 of the screen is taken up by the soloist, and then we have 2 people singing profile to each other that take up the bottom. That happens to be the bass and the beatboxer on the bottom. So that's kind of a nice musical nod to like their unit and what they're doing. The next frame that we have, and I'll show you this in video, but the next frame we have is just of one person soloed, and that looks really nice because we're going from this to this, and we have some contrast, right? There's a little bit of visual interest that happens there. If we went from this to something very similar, but kind of the same format and layout, it wouldn't feel as interesting. One thing that would, however, be effective is to swap in this exact same template other people for those 2 bottom screens. So that would be effective, but changing the template slightly, is probably not going to be as effective. You're better off going to something like this or like this. So, just keep that in mind when you're editing, when you're either giving feedback to an editor or when you are editing, is to try and create some variety between your shot styles or your scenes. So if we call this a scene, we can move into another type of scene and another type of scene. In this last shot, take a look at this template. We also tried our best to balance out the colors here. So we have people in varying background colors, and working with such a big variety of colors can be very difficult. But as long as you try and balance them all out on the screen, as you can see, the 2 red background people are kind of on two opposite sides of the video. And so we're just trying to create a little bit of balance there too. It's, again, not a perfect situation, but you try to make it, you know, what you can. And so, yeah. And so actually, I want to show you guys just a quick glimpse of this video, the first cut that I got of this video, as well as the final cut, to show you guys a few little editing choices that we made. Oh, I have to reshare, even though I'm on the same browser?
Oh, maybe not.
Yeah, no.
This project is so amazing.
Yeah, I think so. So this is the first cut of the video that I got. Thumbs up if you can see this.
You hear this message wherever you stand, calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late.
I want you really to focus here because this is what I'm going to address.
We've been looking for a song to sing, search for a melody, search for someone to lead. We've been looking for a world.
So in this cut of the video, you can see that there are certain things that don't look that great. For example, here.
Search for
How this kind of crossfaded between two shots of people singing.
Search for.
Rarely does that ever look good. And so an example of a better version of that is here, and I will share that with you.
If you
Let me just share the correct screen. Oh,
You have to go back to Zoom.
send it to Zoom. Share screen. Share computer audio. Where's QuickTime? There it is. Okay, and so this is the same video, but the final cut of the video.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late.
So I just wanted to point out that this is it's a much more effective way to toggle between singers, is to fade them out and then fade them back in.
We can't afford to wait.
You'll see the side singers are fading out and then fading in, as opposed to cross fading on top of one another.
We can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. We've been looking for a song to sing, search for a melody, search for someone to lead.
As you can see, we also made that change to the soloist where we added the template to minimize her wrinkles. And yeah, so those are just some examples. I would show you the whole video, but we don't have a lot of time. And I want to move on to the next part of our little presentation. And we're back to screen sharing the PowerPoint, which is this. Awesome. So yeah, flaunt your assets, minimize obvious flaws. Just be really cautious about like what, you know, the flow, the eye line of like where people are looking in your video, what the purpose is. And yes, I am going to unmute Vijay. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
No worries. Make sure you're looking at the video and kind of seeing like, what are we supposed to be looking at? What is the viewer supposed to be looking at as we go from shot to shot? If you're going from shots of like single shots of people kind of looking at the camera, make sure that their eye line is in the same like proportion or the same area in the frame as you go, so that you're still always looking at people's eyes. I mean, eyes are such an important part of videos, especially when we're watching performance videos. So just kind of keep all that in mind for sure. There are a couple other things that we wanted to discuss, which are
so matching energy or energy alignment. You know, when you have a huge peak or a huge kind of climax in the music, you know, maybe you want to see more faces, more boxes, right? And so just aligning the energy of the song and the music to the visual, that's so important. Just marrying the two and making sure that that is just all aligned.
So I just wanted to point out that this is such a it's a much more effective way to toggle between singers, is to fade them out and then fade them back in, as opposed to cross fading on top of one another. And energy can also come in the form of like velocity, right? Like if your song is speeding up or if you're adding more units to the arrangement, you'll want to add more what I call cuttiness, which I don't know if that's a real term, but I'm like, oh, I want this video to be more cutty. And what I mean by that is I want it to cut between different shots more often. And so typically what I'll ask for is if the energy is kind of ramping up, we'll probably want to increase the velocity or increase how cutty the video is. So that's energy alignment. Spatial alignment is more of like a mixing slash visual elements kind of interplay. Sometimes in the mix you'll hear things panned left. Sometimes you'll hear things panned right, certain elements. If you hear a trio that's happening on the left side, maybe in your video you'll want to have those trio singers appear on the left side of the screen. If you have something that's super dead center, maybe you have that be in the center. So spatial alignment is really important. I know in a video that I worked on recently, we had this 12-note cascade that starts at 12 o'clock and then goes clockwise all around from an audio perspective. So the obvious choice for the video was to have everyone pop up clockwise starting at 12 o'clock. So that's spatial alignment.
Yes, performance impact. Make sure you just have a great performance. Like all the technicals can be there. You know, you can have the best editor, you can have the best type of camera, but if your performance isn't there, if you're not giving it 110%, it means nothing. Don't let those visuals or don't let it go flat in terms of performance. Like really give it your all.
Totally.
And yeah.
Otherwise, hire a body double like I
Yeah.
hire Mario Jose.
Yes, Mario.
All my performances for me. And finally, when you're editing, make sure you do musical cut points. So cut points are where the shots are changing. That is referred to as a cut point. Make sure that you're choosing your cut points in a musical way. Sometimes you'll want to do it on the beat. Sometimes you'll want to do it after the beat. Whatever it is, it's a very subtle art to this. You just want to make sure that all of your cut points feel very musical and feel like they're happening at a time that just makes sense. When it comes to the music, right? If you're in like this beautiful, lush holding pattern of like beautiful chords, you're probably not going to have like a million cut points. You're probably going to want to have like really tasteful cut points at the start of each measure or every two measures, depending on the type of phrasing you have. So that's that. Quick note on promo. Your promos should be short. They should be enticing. They should be informative. What do I mean by those three things? They should be short, obvious. They shouldn't be too long. Enticing. They should be visually and from an audio standpoint be interesting to listen to and look at. They should include some of the things that we can come to expect, that we can expect in the video, but still leave us wanting more. And finally, they should be informative. They should tell us when the video is coming out. So
yes,
yeah. In terms of appropriate lead time, you don't really want to start hyping up your video more than like 3 to 4 days before it comes out, just because like you're not Beyonce. And so,
come
on. If you are Beyonce, then you're not on this call. Generally speaking, from like our experience, I think starting promotional activities like 3 days before
3 days
is good, because you don't want to like give it all. It's just like too long, too belabored. It just gets people bored.
Yeah.
And so we have promos. You see them. I don't want to waste time showing them. I want to maybe take. I don't even know if we have time to take a question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a couple.
But just to see all of this in play, guys, come to our virtual showcase Saturday, July 11th. Make sure you're there. You're gonna see all our videos. So we're super excited for that.
Yeah, you'll see these crazy shot lists all put into practice. Does anyone have a question? I think we can either use the raise hand feature or
stop sharing.
Or stop sharing. Cool. Yeah, let's take some questions. If anybody has any. No one has any questions. Still no one has any questions. I think we covered everything so much. Beth, what's your question?
I don't know if you already covered this, but you always come up with such amazing concepts for videos, like the creative storytelling. And I'm just wondering, if someone has a hard time coming up with something that isn't a box video and wants to make it more cinematic, do you have any advice on coming up with ideas?
Totally. Honestly, just pretend like you're in a movie or a video game. I feel like I oftentimes am like just dreaming up little scenarios of like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if there were a little movie about, in our video, we were like, what if someone's going to a club and they want to like just like dance and party, but they're like in their room, bored and drab, and they just want to be out with their friends. So they're gonna go out to like, you know, have a fun night out. And it's like the whole process of doing that can be very mundane, but you can turn them into fun things. So the idea there is like, oh, they're going to get ready. They're going to get ready in front of a mirror. They're going to change their clothes. So then you have, boom, an outfit change. Boom, like different types of shots where you're maybe looking into a mirror, or you have different points of view or vantage points. You have a journey, the narrative. Maybe you're walking somewhere, or you're driving somewhere, or something like that. So kind of take one like very simple idea and then just extrapolating all of the different like events that could happen in that, like almost like a movie. There's like there's the beginning, and then there's the end, and then there's all the little things in the middle, and you just kind of, you know, you can actualize those in many creative ways. I mean, especially with the current situation where everyone's virtually doing stuff, I feel like you can get super creative. And the payoff is a lot better too, because no one's really expecting you to do something that great. So this is a really good time to make like at home.
And this is super obvious, but make sure that it makes sense with the song and with the music. And don't just be like, oh, we want to do this cool concept, and like, okay, here's a song, we'll make it like that. Like, it really has to make sense together.
Totally. I hope that answers your question or helps. But also just talking to people, Beth, like just, you know, talking to other people, like, what do you think this song makes you feel? You know, does it make you feel happy, dancey, cool, bad, sad, whatever? We're unmuting Chris Mitchell.
Hey, money, money, money. So if I want to hire Shams to be my producer for a college acapella box video and have you outsourced a video editor, but I do all the sound on my side, give me just a really general ballpark of price.
I'm going to take business inquiries. But also my name is pronounced Shams.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I will do that.
Excellent. Other questions? Okay, Chester.
Hello, I just have a simple question. I don't know if you guys already gone over it, but what kind of video editing softwares do you guys primarily use for videos?
So VJ uses Pick Play Post. I've used the Acapella app, and neither of us have any real experience in actual video editing software like Premiere, Final Cut, After Effects, stuff like that. We usually will hire other people to do that work for us, but are very much in line, or are giving side by side, giving a lot of feedback.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's take one more.
One more question.
And just so you guys know, we're gonna this is recorded, and we're gonna post it on Academy socials as soon as it's uploaded. So you'll have access to all this.
Yay. Well, if there are no further questions, we had such a great time talking with you all today, helping you guys, giving you some tips on making an acapella video. Again, there's so many ways to make videos in this world, but this is some of the experience that we have thus far. And we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. There's so much fun programming left. And yeah, on behalf of all of the instructors that did this, we had a great time. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Looking forward to
Thanks,
seeing
everyone.
amazing videos that you make with this knowledge. Okay, so I'm now going to exit this room, and I'm going to restart it for Academy campers. So you can come.
Goodbye,
right back.
public.
Bye, public.
We love you.